What is up, my maniacs? I'm the Awesome Maniac, and today I'm going to be reviewing Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D. Well, when I say 3D, I mean mostly things just getting pointed directly at the camera. Without further ado, let's get to the movie. The movie opens showing the last 5 minutes of the previous movie, where Jenny takes down the mass murderer. The only difference being it shows Jason limping away and not jumping at Jenny through the window like at the end of 2, reinforcing the theory that the whole scene was just hallucination and therefore Paul is still alive. Or at least I hope he is. The opening credits roll, playing some very horrifying music. I kid, because what the hell is this shit? It's such a strange choice for a movie like this. It'd be like in The Sixth Sense when the kid tells Bruce Willis, "I see dead people." All About That bass by Meghan Trainor is playing. Just an odd choice. No, the movie really starts with poor old slop Harold Hockett, played by Steve Suskin, pointing a broomstick in our faces while getting yelled at by wife Edna, played by Sherry Malgans. She watches report of the previous movie's happenings as told by director Steve Miner in the role of the newscaster in a very brief cameo. Edna looks outside to see Mr. Voorhees, somehow losing all his hair in the brief time between movies, obtaining a new pair of duds. Guess he didn't like the country look. She confuses him for Harold and goes outside to check. Harold eats fish food and other various store items until he's caught by Edna. We see him get scared shitless, literally, by a snake and runs to the bathroom. We see him on the toilet because who wouldn't want to see that in a movie? While he's taking his shit, he notices the curtain moving. He investigates only to get a cleaver of the chest for the movie's first kill. Edna gets curious and goes to investigate. She gets scared by a rat when Jason grabs her head and sticks a sewing needle through the back of it, out through the front for kill number 2. The scene whites out. The movie cuts to some kids playing on a street and a van pulling up. In the van, we're introduced to Chris, played by Dana Kimmel, Debbie, played by Tracy Savage, and Andy, played by Jeffrey Rogers. Walking up to their friend's house, a mysterious figure stalks them. This figure turns out to be their friend Shelley playing a prank on them, played by Larry Zerner. They pick up their friend and Shelley's date, Vera, played by Catherine Parks. They see the van on fire, but it turns out to be their friendly neighborhood potheads, Chili, played by Rachel Howard, and Chuck, played by David Cadams. The van drives down the road and Debbie informs us that she's pregnant.
That's what happens when you're pregnant.
Okay, bold choice. They see the cops driving behind them and they try to dispose of the evidence. They stop only to see the cops fly right past them to the store. What a waste. They drive past it to see paramedics loading up the vans with dead bodies. They continue driving until they almost hit an old hermit lying on the road. They help him, or try to, but he tries to give them an eyeball in return, which naturally scares them off. He then tries to give us the eyeball, pointing it directly at the camera, saying, "I have warned thee." What is this, Crazy Ralph's cousin? Oh no, maybe his brother. They arrive at their destination, Chris's summer home, Higgins Haven, driving across a loose bridge on the way. Chris unloads her things while the rest go skinny dipping. She steps into the house. Once she does, she is scared by her old flame Rick, played by Paul Kratka. He goes to help her unload when she's scared by Shelley. You're going to see quite a bit of Shelley's antics throughout the rest of this movie. It comes back to bite him in the ass. Chris shows Debbie her room and looks out the window to see the barn door moving. Chris and Rick load up hay in the second story of the barn while Rick talks about boning.
Set aside 3 hours a day to fulfill our needs.
I mean, he seems very persistent on it, too. Chris hears a scream coming from the house and runs to investigate. She finds Shelley in the closet with an axe in his head. Being Shelley, this is a prank, and enough to get Chris to leave. Vera decides to go to the store and asks Rick for his car. He says yes, and she goes. Shelley decides to tag along with Vera, and they go. Vera drops Shelley's wallet at the store and gets harassed by 3 bikers. Fox, played by Gloria Charles, Ali, played by Nick Savage, and Loco, played by Kevin O'Brien.
Make a wish.
Driving away, Shelley accidentally backs into their bikes and Ali punches out the front window because of it. Shelley drives away, but stops to run over their bikes in an attempt to impress Vera, and then they drive back. Shelley and Vera arrive back at the house, with Rick obviously being pissed about his broken windshield, so he and Chris drive off. Little did they know that Jason is watching them from the barn. The bikers find the van and siphon the gas out of it, but Fox gets a little curious and decides to mess around in the barn for a minute. Loco tells her to get down, but she disappears. Curious, he goes to investigate, finding her body pinned to some wood by a pitchfork. He turns around and gets stabbed to the stomach for the movie's third and fourth kills. Ali's up next, finding their dead bodies and attempting to fight Jason.
I say attempts to because he takes one swing at Jason and misses, and gets clobbered in the head for his troubles.
It's nighttime now, and Chris and Rick talk. She tells him of a story about how she encountered Jason once before, being attacked by him but escaping, and that's why she's been so distant. It cuts to Shelly and Andy going head-to-head in juggling. Debbie lures Andy away, leaving Shelly to try and get in bed with Vera. She swiftly shuts him down and goes outside. Chuck goes to use the outhouse, but is scared by Chili. They think Shelly's in the barn, so they go to try and give him a taste of his own medicine. They give up and go back to the house. Cut to Vera sitting on the dock when she gets scared by Shelly jumping out with the iconic hockey mask on. This is the first time we see it. She yells at him and he leaves. He goes to the barn, but we don't see what happens next. We do see Vera drop his wallet in the water, so she goes to retrieve it. This is where we see Jason for the first time fully, played by Richard Brooker. She mistakes Jason for Shelly and stands there while he shoots a harpoon into her eye, killing her.
I just love the way he walks away so laissez-faire, like, oh, guess my job is done here.
Andy and Debbie finished their lovemaking session, so Debbie hops in the shower while Andy handstands to get some beer. On the way back, he looks up to see Jason bring a machete down to make him the 8th victim in Jason's newest rampage. Debbie finishes her shower, lying in the hammock reading a magazine. There's a nice little shout out to Tom Savini. Blood drips on the magazine, so she looks up to see Andy's mangled body. Before she gets screamed, she gets Kevin baconed by Jason. Chuck makes some popcorn when the lights go out, so Chili sends him to fix it. Shelly comes through the door with a slit throat, but Chili just passes it off as a prank. Chuck eventually fixes the lights, but turns around to Jason. He grabs Chuck and throws him into the power box, electrocuting him. Chili finally figures out that Shelly isn't joking and begins her award-winning stretch of dramatic acting. Though Jason doesn't seem to appreciate her brand of acting and lets her know by stabbing her with a hot fire poker through the stomach. Rick and Chris finally make it back to the house, only to find no one there. Rick looks around, informing Chris that everyone has left, and then he goes outside to look some more. Chris goes outside to look for him, not knowing he's being kept quiet by Jason. She goes back inside while Jason grabs Rick by the head and squeezes, popping it. Chris goes upstairs and into the bathroom. She sees the tub overflowing in a bloody rag. She goes outside to try and find Rick again, but only finds Loco's hanging body. Scared, she runs back in the house and barricades the door. This doesn't slow Jason down one bit as he throws Rick's lifeless body through the window and reveals himself to her. Chris runs upstairs and drops some knowledge on him. Like, a lot of knowledge. She hides in the back closet upstairs and finds Debbie's lifeless body. Jason begins breaking the door, so Chris grabs the knife from Debbie's body and stabs him in the hand. She swings wildly at him until she stabs him in the leg. He digs the knife out and throws it at her, but misses. She jumps out of a window, but he grabs her. The jacket tears and she drops. Jason runs outside, but Chris was waiting for him. She whacks him with a log and runs to the van. She drives and almost hits him. She gets stuck on the bridge with no gas, and he eventually catches up with her, but she runs from the van to the barn, tripping for real and hurting herself. She locks the door, but Jason blows right past it. He blocks the door with a big piece of wood and searches for her. He looks up as she drops on him from above. He almost kills her, but she runs upstairs and grabs a shovel. She waits for him, and as soon as he gets up there, she hits him on the head with the shovel and knocks him down. She then wraps a rope around his head and throws him out of the barn, hanging him. Chris gets past the door eventually to see him hanging. He takes his mask off to try and get down from the rope, and she recognizes him. He stalks towards her, but Ali attacks, somehow still alive. Jason obviously makes swift work of him. While he's distracted, Chris grabs an axe, and as soon as he turns around, sticks in his head, dropping him. After that ordeal, she gets a canoe and drifts to sleep in the lake. But she wakes up to see Jason through a window. She attempts to dislodge the canoe, but fails. Jason bursts through the door, but when she looks back, he's gone. Feeling relieved, she relaxes only to be dragged under by Pamela. Turns out it's a dream sequence. Shocker. For real, the next morning, she's taken away by the cops and the movie ends on a close-up on Jason. Roll credits.
Well, with the movie done, let's get to the overall ratings. For characters, I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. The only memorable characters are Fox, Chris, and Shelly. Though Shelly was memorable in one of the worst ways. Nothing on Larry Zerner, but he was too pathetic. Nobody wants to watch a sad slob mope around for an entire movie. The best I can say about Shelly is that he gave Jason his iconic hockey mask. I liked Chris well enough, but there wasn't just a lot to her. Nothing truly stuck out about her. And Fox was fun to watch while she lasted. Rest in peace, Gloria Charles. For story, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10. As with the previous movie, and the movie in the first one, the story isn't the strongest aspect of it. Not that it weighs the movie down. These movies aren't exactly defined by their stories. And that's not why we go to watch them. Next up is what we do go to the movies to watch. The kills. And for kills, I'm going to give this a 5.5 out of 10. This is based solely on the special effects, the makeup. I cannot forgive Rick's death. It's so obvious. Like, what is that shit? I could maybe forgive seeing the string so clearly coming out the eye, but coupled with the fact that the head was so bad, it ruins it all. After that, we move on to enjoyability, which I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10 for enjoyability. I enjoyed watching Jason do his thing with his hockey mask on, given it's the first time we see him with it on. Richard Brooker was a big man, and it shows when he's chasing the people around. He's so much bigger. I enjoyed watching Shelly stand up to those bikers, but that's probably the only enjoyable scene out of the movie from Shelly. And finally, we have rewatchability. I'm going to give this a 5. Given all the in-your-face 3D moments in the movie, it really takes away from the rest of the film. It's very distracting and obvious. Of course, given the movie's budget, I didn't expect much from it anyways. Overall, this movie's going to get a 5.7 out of 10 from me. Higher than 1, lower than 2, took just as long to make. Join me next week. Well, maybe not next week because these take a while and I do have a job. But join me next time when I review Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Before I go, I gotta give a shout out to all my killer flicksters over on the Facebook page. Love you guys. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you get notifications on videos in the future. Bye!